Welcome to Big Blend Radio's first Friday Toast to the Arts and Parks show with the National Parks Arts Foundation, who are known for their amazing artist residencies in parks across the country. Welcome, everyone. You know, every first Friday we get to do our National Parks Arts Foundation podcast here on Big Blend Radio. And we're excited to have Tanya Ortega back on the show. She is the founder of the National Parks Arts Foundation. And what they do is they create these amazing opportunities for artists to have a residency in or around a national park, but actually so they can go into the national park or a state park or a national forest, a state forest. It doesn't really matter. It's about going into a place and being able to have a residency for an entire month. We have been doing this show for, I'm thinking now 9 years, 10 years. I can't keep up with this, Tanya, but it's super cool. As you know, we've been working on this retrospective publication for a long time.
So
it's coming out. It's coming out. It's getting there. We're getting there. It's exciting.
About it. We're excited. And you know what? I just say a decade. I just round it off.
It is a decade, isn't it? Because we were talking before that, and in fact, I'm looking at. I'm trying to look at. We have a playlist, an old playlist on SoundCloud. And I'm trying to figure out the year on this, and that's what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, it's about a decade, 9 years plus. But we talked, and the first few interviews were about what NPAF is about, the residency programs, what parks, and then we talked about the different, the different genres of media or art media that you cover, because I think people don't quite understand that NPAF accepts all arts. And because people initially would think a National Parks Arts Foundation Artist in Residency Park is for plein air painters. Remember, that's what we started talking about in the beginning.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's for everybody.
You do have them, but you have filmmakers and authors
and chefs and all kinds of arts. We do not put limits on that, and we love it when we get proposals that are, they're highly creative, and we've seen proposals of things that we've never even heard about. And they're all art.
And there's a whole virtual stuff going on too. There's all these different things. And one thing today, what we're really focusing on is the military in parks. And you did this amazing program with veterans in national parks, or parks, we should say, because I know you are open to all parks. So y'all call her, nationalparksartsfoundation.org. Go contact through there. And you have waiting lists and stuff like that. But, you can be a state park and apply to this. But you've had a lot of veterans in parks that you did these special programs for. But not only are they veterans, but then there's a lot of parks that have military history. And actually, I was going through the list today in preparation for this interview and going, quite frankly, we can't even think of a park now that doesn't have some kind of military history because, wars and things have happened. You've got to think of Hawaii, where you are. And I think the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park residency is probably one of the most prolific ones that you have. So many artists going there. It's always going. It's a mainstay of the program. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, the Pacific Theater for World War II and things. But then you have people like Rick St. Nicholas with the capes. And those capes that were worn back in Hawaiian royalty times those capes were part of war. And I was thinking, Chief of War just, has been on Apple TV with Jason Momoa, and people are raving about this show.
And Rick did those. He's amazing. He went to the premiere. I ran into him in Oahu, actually, and he was on his way. He was invited to both of the premieres. So yes, the history of the parks and even our artists, even if they hadn't applied under one of our special programs, which, by the way, we are bringing back slowly, albeit slowly, of doing that again. Yeah, we're adding more onto our list. These last couple of years have been interesting. So we are just getting creative with it again. So that is going to happen.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you through these years, 9+ to 10 years, COVID happened. We've had shutdowns, not just one that we are going through right now. We've been through multiple multiple shutdowns, right? And
Yep.
that affects our national parks. But you guys have managed to keep things going. You've had residencies have to be postponed or canceled and then get back right on. You guys get back on your feet immediately as much as you can. It's been difficult, but you guys keep going and you're resilient and still here. And I think that when you talk about military veterans and those who have passed, it's about an actual commitment to
Yeah.
something. And our military commit. And I think you, National Parks Arts Foundation, have really stayed committed to the artists, to the parks. You have stayed constant, but you're also taking the parks outside of the parks. So during a shutdown like today, as we are
Hmm.
experiencing it, I think the artists do this incredible job of that. And when we go to the military part of the artists that have been there, I think Nick Collier did
He did
some.
beautiful, beautiful work. And the Stars and Stripes, I still, even though it was a while ago, I still look at his video that was made by Stars and Stripes when he was at Gettysburg. And because he's been to a few of our programs, and I still cry. I still cry. It's
See,
worth a watch for sure.
well, that's the thing. The military artists are actually putting us inside their viewpoint of a park. So yeah, when I look at the military and I think of like Gettysburg, right? That is this huge just resting place and also the real interpretation of what went down in the Civil War. And last month we had Queen Esther on the show and doing her, new album, a full album from her experience.
Oh, it's great.
It's like when we talk about Veterans Day and everything, right? There's multiple sides to this. And military history, there's just multiple levels and sides. And her new album is incredible. Oh my
I
gosh.
love it.
And she wakes us all up. And so, everyone, I encourage you to go back in the last episode of this. So it's just really cool when you think about military history. Not only do the parks preserve this history, right, and interpret it, and we can go there, but the artists through NPAF over the years, you think about when Queen Esther was there. She was there right at the beginning of COVID, right as it was happening. And in the
Oh,
interview,
that's
she talked
right.
about that. COVID hit. As she flew home, her and her partner had to go get groceries and went, "Ooh, we're all in lockdown."
Mm.
This is so reality based, right? She was in Gettysburg, goes home, this is happening, and now her album's coming out. And NPAF, what's great about the National Parks Arts Foundation that I hear all the time from every interview is that you allow people to have time, just like us with a retrospective of this book of interviews, all these amazing artists, some who've had multiple, placements, but multiple residencies, and it's amazing. She comes out with an album. If you rushed it, it would have sucked and it wouldn't have been
Mhm.
the coolest thing. But
Mhm.
she comes out with something completely different and goes back in history. Oh my gosh, her album is one of my favorite albums of the year, honestly, that
Uh,
has come out.
I love her voice. I mean, everything she does is
Don't mess with Queen Esther. I'm just gonna say
yeah,
that.
I love her
Mm-mm.
power.
Yeah.
And I mean, art, we cannot put a time limit on what people create. Tim Blue, who was in Death Valley, I think a decade ago, maybe, he just finished his and I'll send it to you. He finished his creation, one of his creations from being an artist in residence in Death Valley. Yeah, it was at least a decade ago.
Yeah, he has not been on our show. I know that.
It's, it doesn't seem to I mean, I'm not gonna put words in anybody's mouth, but the inspiration that artists get, it doesn't leave. It just doesn't leave them, and, it's wonderful, and that's how parks get out of the park too, because they keep on creating, things even if we think about what inspired us, even when we were kids, like, it still is like this image for me. In fact, I just sent somebody a photograph of the fire tower that Edward Abbey wrote in and worked with the Park Service, and that image is kind of implanted in my and I saw it when I was so young, that fire tower, and to think, that we are being honored by artists and the parks doing this for artists still. I just got chills actually thinking about it. I'm excited. I'm excited for the future.
Well, I look at the park service, right? And honestly, we've talked about this on the show before, but we need to really reiterate this. I always feel personally that the parks tell more history than the nature side. Now, nature is huge, right? It's huge. And I'm not saying just nature at all. Nature, we need to protect it. Huge, right? It's huge. It's important. But our national parks are national historic monuments. Our National Park Service is made up of more national historic landmarks and sites than actual national parks that we know of, like Yellowstone, Yosemite, Sequoias, and when you go to the Sequoias, for example, you'll learn about Charles Young, who was a Buffalo soldier, who was actually the very first African American chief superintendent of a
Yep.
national park. And he created the road that you drive on to get into the park, now he's brigadier, it's amazing. We look at the Tuskegee Airmen, so we have a lot of African American history and we have National Park Service history that is like, hey, we're tied to this because we're preserving this place of these people like the Tuskegee Airmen that fought and flew in World War II. So I think maybe sometimes we forget that. And the fact that you like have Gettysburg, these residencies there in the past, like you had poets in Gettysburg. I think that's amazing too, because that was another genre that we may see poets in a coffee shop, but we need more poetry out there, honestly. So I think NPAF has done this amazing job. Dry Tortugas National Park. Dry Tortugas has got a fort. Anything on a coast has a fort, because you got to watch out and people are going to bomb you and you're going to bomb them back. Yeah, I think about New Mexico.
Oh
Chaco,
yeah.
not so much a military zone, but not far from it is,
Fort
Pecos that you've
Union.
done. Fort Union, huge. Fort Union had many different forts. Like they had a couple forts come in and one fort, and then no, we're redoing the fort. And it's, part of the Santa Fe Trail and all that
Yeah, it was the
history.
path
And
to the west.
it's huge.
It's hugely military. And I would please everybody if you just Google a aerial photograph of Fort Union. It's incredible. You can see the remnants of how the military was set up
Oh, that's such
there.
a
It's
cool
really
thing to think
cool.
of.
It's
Yeah.
really cool. And you
Because
can kind of see that how they planned the defenses of the fort in a certain pattern. It's amazing.
that's what I'm thinking. All these years of all these interviews that we've done, Gettysburg, for sure, everybody knows that's military, but it was also a community. It's a town. It was farmland and a war came in to your backyard. Could you imagine
Yes.
that? So it's telling the stories of the people of the place. And I think the artist did a really good job of that too. Whether they're a writer, musician, a feather worker, like who knew that would
Do
happen?
you remember? I can't remember his name right now, but it must have been about 8 years ago when the artist that was there, the artist in residence that was there, did the virtual reality of Lincoln, and you could become Lincoln and deliver the Gettysburg Address.
That's crazy.
And it was interesting because the Park Service was like, we haven't seen your artist very much. Are they still around? Like, what is? And I said, it's virtual reality. He's working on it in the house, and he's out and during the nighttime. And you've seen him, but he's collect. And when he did his public program, everybody had the virtual reality on, and they were delivering as Lincoln the Gettysburg Address. I
Do you
thought was
remember William Bretzker?
oh,
Gettys,
that's
the
right.
photographer who shined it out on top of the barns and he put his he like merged the past. I think what was amazing about Gettysburg was that the artist tended to bring the past and the present together, no matter what artist. I'm looking
Yeah.
through them. Queen Esther brought the past and the present together in her album. William Bretzker did that. He brought it onto like the actual buildings. Like, here's my photograph and here's this general. Who is this? And you think about, Jim Schled. I'm like
Oh,
thinking
yes.
Chip Beck. Remember Chip? We love Chip.
He's
Jim
so cool.
Schlett, Jim Schlett still's going around. And, these artists are not done. And
artists
Getty,
are a force. They are a force. Like I kind of see it at like an army. Like these artists that we work with, they do so much. They change minds. They do things with the environment, with the military. They show the history. It's amazing. It's really, we're very lucky.
I know, I'm looking at all these artists. I'm going through this, see it, Sean McGraw, Civil
Yeah.
War artist, right? Yeah,
I have to admit this is
amazing.
horrible, but I wish that we could keep in contact with all of the artists that we've worked with. About 5 years ago, I think there were over 300 artists, and we stopped counting because there's so many, and the future is looking like it's going to be more programs.
It,
So we'll see. We'll
it,
see.
it is what it is. I
Exciting.
mean, our world right now is changing on a daily basis, like it does normally. But this is the beauty of putting this retrospective together is like you look at these artists and then you see what comes, and it can be 5 years later. We'll put this retrospective. I'm like, when Queen Esther was on the show last month, I'm like, oh, thank God the retrospective's not done because it felt like this closure to her first interview. And she was like heated up when she got to Gettysburg. Let me tell you, she
Oh
was
yeah,
heated up.
I
And
love.
you'll be able to hear her interview then and then hear her interview years later once she's created her piece. And I was like, okay. And every show that you've been on our show, how many times we're like, oh, the retrospective's coming out this month. No. And this is the beauty of it and it's like, okay, that
It's
was it.
wonderful. I have to tell
It's
you though, we have one artist left that couldn't go to Gettysburg during COVID that we still need to schedule for Gettysburg. Let's see, it was 2019 here at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park when Artist Olds, who's a dancer, he was with Stomp, he's got all kinds of accolades and awards, and he is going to be here in a couple of days.
that's
And
exciting.
we even when so far we've been able to reschedule, and that is so many years, and everybody has been so patient, but we are determined. We are so determined. Maybe it's just being stubborn, but so we have one artist left to get to Gettysburg to schedule, and we're determined, but yeah, even if it takes a while, no artist left behind.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. I remember Lisa Salmia too. And
That's who I'm talking about at Gettysburg.
yeah,
It's so
I mean,
funny.
she's giving the voice to the voiceless, especially for women
Yes.
that went through the war. And that's, I think Gettysburg is like a hot place for things that happen politically and all that stuff we don't want to talk about right now, but
Right, right.
it's
And we
hard. It's hard. And the
changes.
Gettysburg,
So yeah.
it's huge. The history there is so massive. And I remember Chip coming on the show, Nick Collier, certain artists coming on and talking about Gettysburg. And I'm like, remember you doing a show live? You called in live from Gettysburg. You guys did it with the superintendent at the time. And you were telling me like, there's ice cream here. And like, then later travel writers have done shows and articles. Everyone that will be in their retrospective too, because it is a destination. This is a community that is amazing. They have
And
ghost
in
tours and everything.
Gettysburg, there
Yeah.
is a continuous journal of the artists and residents that go there. And I've taken photographs of the pages of it, but it's still continuing, this journal of the artists and residents. And I can't wait to take photos of the last couple of years, few years or whatever. And the poets even wrote poetry in it. And somebody wrote a peach pie recipe in there too.
Yes. Because there's a
It was
peach tree
just
out at
so
the Klingel house.
exactly.
Well, there's people are staying there. They're going through that, and it is. I've interviewed, people from the CVB, the tourism center there, and they're talking about like this is orchard paradise. This is apple
It's
season, peach
beautiful.
season. all this. It's pastoral, and you have Dwight Eisenhower's house right up the road, the farmer's house, which we went to, and this was when COVID was allowed to open up a little,
Mhm.
and we went to his place, and I was like, you couldn't go in or anything at that time. And Nancy and I are like, can we just come hang out here? It's so calm,
Oh, it's
peaceful.
beautiful. And
Isn't
that's
that,
the thing too,
yeah,
sometimes if the Park Service staff has time to let artists and really public, I got a tour of the barn is a garage at the Eisenhower house, and it is full of the old cars and different things. It's amazing. Yeah,
no
there is
way.
so much
See,
more there than people see. It's so, oh my gosh, there's a house in Gettysburg, and the entire floor is like 2.5 feet of cannonballs that people have
no.
found throughout. Yeah, I've got photos of it.
It's
It's
insane.
amazing.
And everyone, Tanya knows how to take photos. She is an amazing photographer. You know, Eisenhower's place, like I'm going to be honest on this show. So I got to a point of disliking him because of Route 66.
Tell me more.
So this is a very interesting thing. The Route 66 is actually part of our National Park Service, y'all.
It
And
is.
next year is 100 years.
What?
It's the centennial of yes, of this mother road. You know it from Santa Fe, your
Oh
work
yeah.
and life in there, right?
It,
100-year anniversary. And it's it's iconic. It is, all of these things. And it did this huge road trip thing. And then we had World War II. And Eisenhower said, we need to use this road to do all this military stuff. And the interstate came in. And
mm,
I recently did an interview. So everyone check out bigblendradio.com. You'll see it on YouTube or bigblendradio.com for the interview with Jim Hinckley, who's Route 66 pro historian. He's been on our show over the years multiple times, and we haven't seen him for a while, but he just did the centennial publication on this. And I was talking about this, like this historic route, like what the heck happened? Because when we were Southwest Blend, this goes back in Big Blend history, we covered Seligman and
mm,
Ashford. You know all these places,
yeah.
Williams, all of that. And this was when they were starting to regroup Route 66. This was about 20 years ago, Tanya, maybe 15 years ago. You're going to know about this because you're connected with the Southwest too. But Route 66 fell off the map. It
Tell
was
you
Eisenhower who did it. And I decided I did not like him. But then I learned more and then I had to regroup. Because when you learn more about World War II history, go to Hawaii. See, this is what NPAF does. You're taking us all over the place through art and history and storytelling. Then you realize, oh, I suppose we needed to do that and use our roads.
well, I'm a little biased. Something when Route 66, when the interstate took over, the trading posts of the Southwest
Mm,
that were scattered and had
got
a lot of
screwed.
First Peoples, Native American would sell to these trading posts, and they were still trading also. And what happened when the interstate went through is, well, it
Cut off
would
the supply.
cross over Route 60, where, okay, it's hard to explain. My
Yeah.
grandparents got eminent domained at one of their trading posts. So that was a huge hit on my family and the artists that they would work with from the various tribes around there. So when they put in the interstate, all of those towns that have communities, they still have the communities. It took away the trade. It took away. So I'm a little bit.
So my anger has been right then. Okay, because I got pissed when I got to Seligman, and Nancy and I went there and realized what this town suffered. Like a barber shop didn't have people for a barber shop anymore. People
Yeah.
had to move out of towns. You talk about small town America. Well, these big things happen in life. My gosh, we went totally off the other deep end, but it's true. This is military history.
It is military history. Absolutely. It took people's bread and butter away. That interstate
I
did.
was so mad about it, but then you look at World War II.
Yeah.
So where do we go with that? So I had to, because I was so upset because of the stories of your family and the stories of Seligman. And I was pissed. And I was like, I don't want to ever hear about the Eisenhowers ever again. You suck. Like, honestly, I was that bad. And then I had to learn more. And
You
I
know he
did.
was an artist, right?
God, no, I did not. Oh, like George Bush is like an amazing artist too. You talk about presidents and artists, George Bush is incredible. Everyone, go look at that. Google George Bush art. He's amazing. Go look
In
at
the
that.
Eisenhower house, maybe you didn't get to see
No, I didn't. We didn't get in. It was COVID.
the summer, what do they call that? The summer porch where people used to sleep outside during the summer. So they turned that into, there were some paintings up in there when I saw it. Yeah. Oh, it is
Good.
military.
Did you like him? I mean, how was that going there? I have to ask this because we both have this, like what happened to Route 66 moment. And it's obvious your family, that's huge history and sad. That's so how did it feel for you going to Eisenhower's house? Because I had this like anger towards him because of exactly what happened with your family and these small mom and pop stores that were just, and if you look at Route 66 over the history, these people weren't making huge money. Do you know how much it costs to run a neon sign, people? Geez, that's why it's gone. Neon was going out. Now people are getting grants for it, which is great. But this was all done over war and military and, well, obviously war and military, but
Oh,
war.
check it
And
out. I've got to tell you, the El Rancho Hotel in Gallup, New Mexico. Okay,
yes,
here is
you're
Gallup, New Mexico during,
Navajo code talkers.
yes, the Code Talkers. And I met Code Talkers there that I'm getting chills again. Amazing. And the hotel during COVID shut and took people in that had COVID. So, but the thing about that hotel is that that was on Route 66. That was part of the route, and they had this neon pink. Anyway, it's and that's where all of those old westerns, all the stars stayed there before the like interstate was the thing to do. So there's such a history. There's such a history.
Wow.
But to answer
Wow.
your question, the Eisenhower house, I thought about the Mrs. because she and I tried to think of how it felt for her. And a lot of what that house is, she designed and chose. And so I felt, though she didn't have the voice that she might have had it been a different time, she was able to create a lot that was in there. So I kind of like when I went into the house, I felt that perspective.
This is so interesting to me because you got to go in, we didn't. And I had this anger, truly
Mm.
anger. Everyone can yell at me and email and yell at me, but I saw what happened to families in Seligman and all those places. And quite frankly, Arizona, the state of Arizona, the Arizona route going to Kingman too. That's how Route 66 came back on track now for us to even be able to celebrate it and travel the route. Okay. There's an association. It's amazing. They're all doing amazing work, but it was Arizona who stood up and said, y'all, like we got to do something. We are Route 66 and this route is historic and we need to preserve this. And today it is part of our National Park Service. And that's something, again, like we were talking about, military sites and historic sites. Our National Park Service incorporates so much. Heritage areas, you think about, Natchitoches, Louisiana. It's a heritage area. Cane River heritage area. You Yuma, Arizona, Yuma Crossing National Heritage Area. Well,
Oh
Yuma
yeah.
Crossing is a fort, and people, oh, I'm getting a
Mm-hmm.
little hyper. Sorry.
Me.
Getting a little riled up. Wars happen and our country has the people that have stood up and done things, whether it's World War One, two, all Iraq, all of it. And when you start to really learn this history and when you go to these places, your life is changed. TV doesn't show us the reality. It does at times, but it doesn't quite sink in as much as when you go to a battlefield or when an artist tells you a story of a soldier or
Yeah.
a woman that lived in the town of Gettysburg that died making bread
Yeah.
during the
And
battle.
I remember as a child talking to people in Gallup about how Gallup resisted the Japanese American internment camps.
Yeah.
Um, it is said that that was a myth, but I heard it from people there, and I'm getting mad about it too, that people are calling it a myth. That means that many people were lying to me as a child. I refuse to believe that it was a myth. And because they're saying it's a myth because the order for that was not required by New Mexico. But anyway, for what that's worth, Gallup. And yeah, it goes back to the military.
It does. We've got to honor the people that have, when you realize what war is.
Yeah.
I love that you talk about when we talk about Eisenhower, Mrs. Eisenhower, because that is often left off of the conversation. The moms, the
Yeah.
wives, the
Moms,
kids,
the wives, and what they had
the
to
families.
endure, even if they disagreed with something, they did not. They had a power that was an undercurrent that should have been able to be voiced, but of course was not. So
It took time. It did. Hal
still
Moore's
taking
wife,
time.
Hal Moore
Right?
did stuff. Hal Moore did, wife, during Vietnam, this is during the Vietnam War, and our country didn't quite know what was going on with that at that time. I mean, World War I and II, and then Vietnam snuck in, literally. And then everybody can argue about that war, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. The wives are in the housing, and they would see a taxi drive up to a house. And you know what that taxi was delivering? The note that your husband's dead. And she stood up and created, like, the taxi person is not giving the remains, or not even the remains at that time. You're going to have your sisterhood with you when that happens. And she created that. And it was amazing.
Wow.
This is Hal Moore's wife.
Yeah.
And everybody look up Hal Moore.
Yeah.
We've been to his museum. We've interviewed Mike Guardia so many times on this. Mike Guardia has written his biography with Hal Moore as he was, the end of his life. And
See,
when you see what
that's
she's
the
done,
current that you don't hear about. Even the women pilots here at the artist house, which I am at right now for Hawaii Volcanoes National
anyway,
Park. Yeah, there is a landing strip walking distance that was used during World War II from here, and
really,
people don't even know that it's there. You only know if you go on Google Maps and you're like, "What's this?" And nobody, even hardly anybody even knows that it's there. And I'm thinking, wow, did the wasps of World War II, did they have something to do with it? And I don't even know. And I'm asking around. I'm asking the elders here what they remember about it. And there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot. But
sometimes people
Honolulu,
don't want to know.
yeah,
People
that too.
also don't want to talk about it.
That too.
That's the thing. World War I, too, it's like the closed lip generation. It's like the silent generation, right? And I think Gallup, I want to go back to Gallup too. Gallup, New Mexico, which is close to the residency that you have Chaco and Fort Union and everything from their Aztec ruins. Gallup, Nancy and I, stayed there, and we did stay at the Rancho Inn, the El Rancho, which is like classic. You want to stay somewhere real Route 66, nostalgia,
Yeah.
and you want the movie history. Steve Schneider did the movie history on that. Remember when we stayed there? He did the
Yeah, that's
Hollywood
right.
history on that.
That's
Yes,
right.
he did. He did. And Gallup is like a hot spot for that. And Gallup, like, I don't care you're traveling through New Mexico, you're going to end up in Gallup, period. So Gallup is interesting. And they have in the courthouse area, the plaza, because
Mm-hmm.
Southwest has plazas. We did this whole series on main streets and downtowns. And then Debbie Stone, one of our travel writer friends here on Big Blend Radio, said, "Excuse me, Santa Fe is a plaza. Can you include a plaza? Can't leave out the plazas." I'm like, duh, but Santa Fe obviously has like an iconic plaza, but Gallup does too. And we went there in May. It was before, I think you knew when we were there. I don't know. It was before COVID. And it was amazing. They have these dances with Native Americans that come out and are interpretive, like they tell you, they explain their dance. The indigenous people come out and are giving you this opportunity to actually interact, have this conversation, allow you to photograph, which is very rare
Mhm.
and film, they know. They're like giving you this like I'm so weird about the whole photography thing in Santa Fe too. Please don't go to the Palace of Governors and things. Like, don't start photographing people. It's rude. So it's kind of a weird thing for me to do that. Like, it's weird, but I get it. Like, Africa's like that too. Like, can you photograph this tribal person or not? And you want to have that communication. And in Gallup, they are very open and they want that. And they're doing it through this. I'm going to tell you our story and move it from there. Like, we're trusting you as the audience to do it in the right way. It's like a very heavy, it's an experience. In other words, you can't be an idiot when you're there. You know what I'm talking about?
What's the
Indian
difference
dances.
between, like, the law that we can photograph anything in public and being a civil and nice person and actually asking people what they, if they mind?
Mhm.
You have to make that choice,
And that,
unless.
and that at Gallup, they have a hall of tribute. It's like a tribute to all the Navajo Kotakars,
Yeah.
there at that plaza, which is amazing. But I want to go back to NPAF, the National Parks Arts Foundation. Gosh, we've gone all over on this one, this
Yeah, we have. I
episode.
love it. I love it.
I know,
We
I do too.
can't.
Well, it's important. It's important. Because we're talking about war
Yeah.
and how artists, I wanted to do that photography to show the horrors. And you've had artists go in there and show beauty, women's stories. Alice Lease went to Fort Union and connected with a woman that was there, read the diaries, which is something that you can't do if you go in there as a park visitor. This was a special thing.
Yeah, and let's think about also the people who work for the Park Service and what they puts them at risk for their jobs. The face of things is different, and when artists are able to tell a story that people can't because maybe they aren't allowed to, or it puts them at risk for something, it is a very important story to tell.
Ooh, well, I can say this.
Hmm.
I'm going to keep it without people names, but I have a friend who is not a park ranger anymore. She was and has served our public lands her entire adult life and is not there doing that anymore because of what's happening currently. Her husband is park police in DC. He's been
Oh,
shot
wow.
in the face. No, this is years ago. She sees him. She's gonna yell at me or love me for telling this story. She sees him in like the interior publication, right?
Hmm.
He gets shot in the face, head, that kind of thing. I'm going to get it wrong. Sorry, my friend. I'm not leaving. I'm keeping their names out of this.
Yeah.
And goes, man, this guy is so inspiring. And at that time, she was at a very small and tiny um, NPS National Park Service unit in the desert in Arizona and Southwest area. And she just kept it and she was moving on to her next position because she wanted to be able to fulfill all roles of National Park Service. She wanted to be the ultimate ranger. Everything. She did fire. I mean, everything. She's worked in BLM, forest, everything.
Her
Everything.
stories.
Right now, her light has been turned off. Her husband comes from this publication. She sees this. She's moving to go to the next park to do a next kind of publication, not a publication, next kind of career move, right? She moved on, and you know this. Your family and you have been in the Park Service for years, Tanya, and in this way, there are people that are absolutely dedicated to the public lands, to the
Hmm.
land, the history, the nature, everything that will do anything and everything. And she is one of those. I'm going to learn to fight fire.
Yeah.
So if I'm there, I can fight the fire. I'm going to learn to interpret and tell you the story. I'm going to learn this. I'm the ultimate. Right now, it's done. The light is out. And I'm saying that a couple times for a real reason.
She's not alone.
She's
Not
not
alone.
alone. Hell no, she's not. So she sees her future husband on a front cover of a magazine because he got shot. And I want to remind everybody, as we look at Veterans Day, we have park police. We have military within our parks that get in trouble all the time, in that somebody can shoot a gun at a park ranger at any time. Our park rangers are packing most of the time for a reason. People do
Yes.
things, okay? We know about there's pot fields in parks. There's all kinds of things that happen in our public lands. Her husband is one of those that goes out after the bad guys. He got shot. She sees his photo on this cover of this interior publication, and she was feeling at this point a little like, about the service, and his story inspired her so much. And she's like, I am going to meet this guy at some point too.
Wow.
Like his guy, and they end up being married and still married very happily to this day.
Love story.
It's a park love story. We all love this. But she looked at that and went, if he can be shot in the face, I can stay doing this. Park rangers go through so much.
They really
And
do. And those
they,
two are doing it for the people and the park and the history and all of those things and the safety of people. Like, that's part of it. That's part of it that is not mentioned very often.
I think
Beauty.
your artists have done so much good. Dan Honda has been on the
Oh,
show.
isn't he great? He's
Amazing
amazing.
photographer. Huge, huge, amazing. He taught me about night photography on the very first show he came on. I was like, dude, how are you doing this? I don't understand. I don't understand this shutter speed thing. And then he explained it to me in one simple sentence. Like he just
And
has this amazing way.
his
But
books, he is incredible. So yes, everybody look up Stan Honda. He's totally
his
good
family
guy.
history, I bring up the military history because of his family history in our country and
Yes,
internment camps.
that is a powerful book. That is one of my favorites of a very hard subject, and he did such a good job on that.
Wow, we have a lot of people that have been on shows in parks. Dry Tortugas, a fort. We've got to look, Gettysburg, apparently, yes, huge. And it affects artists in different ways, and they give us the art, the storytelling, whether it's music, whether it's video, whether it's movies, all kinds of things. Big Band, you were in Big Band. This was pre us being on, connected on NPAF and Big Blend Radio, but Big Bend was also a huge part of history for the National Parks Arts Foundation. And
Mm-hmm.
and that included a veterans program there too. So you have done so much for veterans. What was it, before we go, I wanted to ask, what was it that made you go, hey, we're going to do a special veterans program? What was your inspiration for that?
It was the national monuments themselves, the parks themselves. And at the same time, I was like, okay, if we're doing something for veterans, we got to do something for single moms. We were trying to figure out where the equilibrium was on other things that are important too. But the parks, that's what it was. The history of the parks.
Of going there and the people history. I mean, because it's pretty amazing, when you look at who has been through there. Carissa Garcia.
Yeah. There's something else too, though. I had a friend in high school
That's
named
new.
Steve Yazzie, and Steve Yazzie was in the military, and he did a piece when he was very young, I think in his early 20s, in the Heard Museum. And I knew him in high school, and I was still impressed with his artwork. So thinking about something I do not know enough about, and having friends, many friends that had gone into the military, and having the conversation with them before we were even out of high school, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And it concerned me. I was scared for my friends, and so that was also a part of it. It was like a continuing conversation in my head, because it's not for me personally part of my world, except knowing it through other people. My grandfather, my great grandfather being, in Korea, World War II, all of that. I have a relative who was in the Civil War and wrote a ballad, and it is a horrifying ballad. I also, it's something that I should know more about. So it's also the conversation. It was the places themselves and the continuing conversation in my head of something that I know very little about and should probably know more. It
That's beautiful.
helps veterans. It helps veterans also, according to Nick and the other interviews that you have done. Thank you for doing those with those veterans.
I love that you say this, your comment there, because your answer. National park, we don't know. That's the point. We don't really get it. In
Yeah.
school they give you a little thing and you're supposed to learn it. And yeah, I mean, and the schools can only do so much. When you go to a place and you see where someone has died, that's going to change how you feel about war. As a kid, you don't know until you go to one of those places, those parks that we have. And through art, you may not get to Gettysburg, but you may read about it. You may watch a movie. You may see art and get it. I've had shows with, Joe Clark is a travel writer, and she went to Gettysburg, and she was able to go on horseback and track down exactly where her great grandfather was shot and killed.
Wow.
And she's a travel writer, so she wrote about it. That's an art form, by the way, y'all.
Yes.
Y'all.
And
As
doesn't
soon as
seem
I go south, I go, y'all. I need
y'all.
to stop it. Nancy yells at me, like, you're not from there. What are you doing? I don't know. I just went there. But this is the thing. The arts tell us the stories so we can feel and be impacted through movies, through art, visual art, paintings, sculptures, and even the sculptures you want to take down have an
The
impact.
monuments. Yeah.
How about that? Talk about impact, huh? You want to take them down. Maybe we need to put a sign up and say who those people really were and what they were doing, all of it. I don't know. That's still an argument.
There was one on the Santa Fe Plaza. Since you're mentioning Plaza, there was one on the Santa Fe Plaza. And for my life, hanging out on the Santa Fe Plaza, a bunch of us teenagers and kids, reading all of the words on that, discussing what was in the monument. And in the early 70s, somebody had chiseled out a terrible word. So that was going on for a while. And now that that is gone, how is the youth of today educated, and what is their conversation when they're hanging out on the plaza skateboarding and stuff like that, doing whatever they're doing? Where is that conversation about war, about these serious things, about the horrible words that were used on that monument? Maybe they don't even have that discussion anymore. It was a serious discussion among us as youth. It
I'm
was
so
not
glad
taken
you brought this
lightly.
up.
Not
Okay,
taken lightly.
two things. No, I don't, because in Santa Fe, when we were there, it was right before COVID, like right before. And that's the same time we were in Gallup, right? By the way, Gallup, can I just give a shout out to Gallup? They
Yeah.
have this amazing park. So it's not the downtown, it's on the other side of town. And it has a Smithsonian listed park, and it's the People's Park. Go look it up. They have this amazing bronze, it runs around like in a circle of Native American people that are from there, the indigenous people. Then they have a rock star section. They have the train section. They have mining. They show who makes up the landscape. Go to the People's Park in Gallup, New Mexico. I
Mm.
encourage everyone to go there. It is listed on the Smithsonian. We went there and we go there. Every time we go to Gallup, we stop. That's actually our stopping spot to just relax, get out of the car, stretch our legs. We go there. It is beautiful.
And
It,
telling.
it
Yeah.
is. It's telling the truth. It's like we have musicians, we have artists, we have this, we have that. Gallup has everything there and throughout the years and is not recognized as well as it should be. Moving forward, gosh, we were talking about military history and everything. Now I just blanked out because I got so stuck on Mexico. But you were talking, just tell me. I'm gonna edit this, so it's okay.
Oh
Tell
no,
me.
I was just thinking about the artists that are visiting the monuments, the parks, the ones that have been taken down,
Oh
and
yes. Okay. Okay. Okay.
how is
I'm
the
gonna stop.
conversation happening? Yeah.
It's okay. I'm going to stop, stop, stop.
Okay. Okay, good, because I really
Okay, wait. I'm going to do it. I'm going to finish. We're going to finish. Go. Go.
Okay. Hold on.
So the other part I wanted to bring up is Hidalgo, right? And he has a sculpture right next to the Basilica in Santa Fe. And I photographed that, and now it's gone, apparently. And I photographed even the signs. By the way, everyone, a lot of our signs are being taken down across the country and in national parks and parks. And there is a lady doing a sign project that you might want to check out. And
Mhm.
if you take sign photos like I do it because it's part of my research. Signs in historic parks, national parks, those places have been vetted. It's like trying to be an artist in residence for the National Parks Arts Foundation here with Tanya. You have to be vetted. You're going to go through a little series of people looking at what you do, and you'll either get in or not. And then if you don't get in, you're going to do it again, as every National Parks Arts Foundation artist in residence has said on the show. None of them got in immediately. They did it second, third time, whatever, and multiple times. Some have been there like 3 times. So it's the same thing about this. Our parks, a lot of them are losing their signs. So I don't know if Tanya likes me talking about this, but I'm going to say it, and she doesn't have to answer any.
Oh, I'm gonna answer.
So
Oh,
I'm going to
God.
say there's a lady out there right now creating a website where we can all upload our photos of signs. I have we are on the Love Your Parks tour. Nancy and I have been traveling since 2012 nonstop on actually getting data on parks and public lands. So she's going to get a ton. And one day she's just going to tell
I'm
me to shut up.
I
But,
am so impressed that this project is going on and that people are keeping track of the signage, even if it's signage that is incorrect and horrible. But again, the face of things, the branding of things is important. And I don't mean important as in good or bad. It is important to any business and government. I'm sorry. When I look at it as a business, even though it is supposed to be for the people, the branding, when you look at all of the Park Service signage and the designers that they even used to hire that were actual designers and artists, and what is happening with that, I am glad there is a record of it, even if it is incorrect, so that people can look at the mistakes and people can look at the things that were true that haven't been around for 30, 50 years or since the beginning. So I think it's a very good project. I have seen things rebranded. I have seen entire races of people called something else that they don't agree with so that it sounds better. And then that denies their history. So that's deep.
it
I'm glad
is.
it's happening.
Yeah, it is. So we take your photos, do that. I mean, Hidalgo was good and bad. It's like Columbus. Columbus, I just have an interview coming out in a few days with an expert historian, really well respected, huge. And he did a book on the 9 lives of Columbus. Columbus was not
Wow.
a great guy.
Branding.
But no, he's not a great guy. He's
No.
not. But there's all these stories about him. And he was like, he basically has these 9 lives and countries that actually claim him as their birthplace. Things like that. It's like these crazy stories about Columbus. What's the truth? We all think we know the truth of Columbus, but do we? Do we really know? In Tucson, is where we're based out of, even though we travel full time, there's a Christopher Columbus Park. It's a community
Yeah.
park. And next to it it's beautiful. It has a beautiful pond area. There are herons nesting up in the trees with a rookery. People kayak, people have picnics. It's a beautiful urban park. And next to it is also the dog shelter. So people are walking dogs all the time, people volunteering their time. It's beautiful. But it's called Christopher Columbus Park. And people spray painted over that name. Like, why are you calling it Christopher Columbus? We are right at the Tohono O'odham Nation line at this
Exactly.
point. You're right there. You know, beep, beep, beep. My language there. So why did you call it that? And it could be the Knights of Columbus. And why are we doing the Knights of? It's like it gets deep, right? So we're in this transition of worlds, learning how to change, and maybe we can learn how to change through communication instead of war. I know our people that do really go out there and fight. When you go to these battlefields, you go to these
There are people
sites.
face it, and like I said, I don't know enough about it, so I actually defer to people who have lived it, and I have to, because question my own reality and think, oh, how many times have I listened to Donovan's Universal Soldier and I love it? At the same time, that's not the reality, and what we're facing, especially right now internally,
Yeah. The
is a lot.
universal social soldier, it really is to blame. Yeah. It's
Hmm.
not true. It's not true, actually, when you look at what happens. War is war because people do what they do. And we only can really thank the people that go there and do justice. It's hard. It's hard to see what they go through. It's very, very difficult what they go through. The families that go through this, it's huge. And so peace is the way. But humanity has not learned that yet. But art has a way to tell you these stories for us to understand. It's better than the TV. That's all I'm saying.
It transcends.
It does. And when you
Yeah.
go to these park sites, or if you can't go there, look up the artists that have done things through National Parks Arts Foundation. There's so many. Really, it's amazing. And you'll get different stories. You hear stories of women. Like, that's what I was saying. Alice Lease got connected to a woman that was living out there at the fort. You know, and even the
Lucky Garcia,
superintendent's
Clarissa Garcia.
family was there,
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. Press
We'll see you
on.
again.
This is gonna be good. I can't wait to speak again and to hear from you and everybody else too. Thank you.
Everyone, take care.
Thank you for joining us here on the Peanut Patch on Big Blend Radio. You can visit the store between October and April in Yuma, Arizona, or shop online at thepeanutpatch.com. And keep up with new episodes that air every first Friday at 12 p.m. Arizona time at bigblendradio.com.